very good, but not only that, it's just she is a psychiatrist.
Yeah, you're
Yes.
saying it right.
But she takes care of health, not just mentally. She's very concerned about physical, mental, and spiritual health. And that's the beauty of it. Whenever you hear her speak, it's holistic. So she is always what? Down to earth. Is she always down to earth? Well, you're going to find that out today. And I think you're going to be very happy because, once again, you're going to have more tools to take home to handle stress and psychological barriers to change, or why can't I stick to it? I'm not going to take any more of your time. Welcome back welcome back to Fit for You, the Great Allegheny East Conference. Dr. Jude Boyer Patrick.
Good morning, good morning. I always tease Leah and say she always puts me before lunch. People are hungry and people want to eat and you have to hear me talk. And then Kenny said, well, it's better than after lunch when everybody goes to sleep. So I guess I haven't been here for a couple of years, which is okay. You needed a break from me. But it's a pleasure to be back. And oh, the pressure to keep working out so that when I come back, people don't look at you and say, oh, you're gaining weight. That's the downside of being a presenter and Fit for You. But that's what we're going to talk about today. How many people have come, how many times have some of you come to Fit for You camp? 13 years you've been coming to Fit for You? 15. 4. So the question is, do you, and maybe I should put it this way, why do you come? You've come for 13 years. Why do you come?
For me, it's a tune-up.
A tune-up. A tune-up for lifestyle, a tune-up for weight loss, a tune-up for what?
Just mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally.
I should have another mic. Leah, do you have that other mic? Yeah. I hate talking to people and everyone doesn't hear what they're saying. Is it on? Can I use this? All right, go ahead.
I think most of you know my story. I was very much overweight, and have been an emotional eater. And so when things go bad, I stress and I eat. And so Fit for You gives me that opportunity to get back on track. So I come here for spiritually, emotional support, as well as to support others.
Okay, and you've been here how many times?
This is my third time. I came in 2005, and I thought I had it. It was wonderful for 2 weeks. And then I skipped 11 years and came back last year for 2 weeks. And I said, I really need this every year because I didn't maintain. And I hope that God's going to help me again to maintain what I've learned.
Okay, and that is the whole point of what we're going to talk about today. Change. And how do you make it stick? Now, I'm just going to say this. I know I'm being taped. I don't want any political discussion, but I'm going to throw it out there. I found it hysterical that after Donald Trump, who is the presumptive Republican nominee, won the, I guess, the appropriate amount of delegates to become the Republican nominee, they said after the convention, he will start to be more presidential. Now, you did hear that, right? Is that possible? Why not? No, I mean, why is it not possible for Donald Trump to be more presidential?
Because he don't set the right example to be a president.
Okay, he doesn't set the right example. I'm talking about something here now. What they are saying is he has to what? Change. He's 69 years old. He has spent a lifetime doing what he wants, when he wants, to whoever he wants. And now, as soon as that convention is in July, he has to change. Is that likely? No. Is it possible? Yes. But is it likely? No. Why is it not likely? Do people change? Let me hear you. Do people change? Yes. You think people change?
People change, but you have to have the mindset to change. If you want to say, if you say that this is how it's always been, that's just how it's going to always be. But you have to have that mindset to make that change.
Okay, you just heard the lecture. I came in on the tail end about DNA, how you come out of your mother's womb, your personality, all of that plays a part. Because in order to change, you have to be motivated to change, and you are not born motivated. It is not something that is in your DNA. It is an external thing. It is not an internal. You have to make it internal, and everybody changes for themselves based on what? Their personality. I was having that conversation on the way up with my husband that when I decided I wanted to be a doctor, I had to take biology. Now, I had already finished college at La Sierra. I had already finished my master's degree. I decided, don't know why, to become a doctor. I was older, an older student, and I think sometimes age does bring wisdom. So I went into a community college in Riverside, California, and it was a biology 101 class. And if you know some of those classrooms, they have these huge amphitheaters, right? So I'm sitting way in the back because I'm no longer the 18-year-old eager beaver. And of course, that amphitheater went all the way down to the professor's desk on the bottom. Okay, biology 101. The professor walked in and said, I don't give A's. That's the first thing he said when he walked in. You know, that made such an impression on me. I'm talking 1984, 83, 82. 30-some years ago. I still remember that. I don't give A's. So let's just say that maybe there were 150, 200 people in that amphitheater. My personality was, oh, heck, you're giving me an A. I don't care how many other A's people get, but I'm getting an A. There may have been some people in that room that said, then why bother try? Do you understand what I'm saying? He's not going to give me an A, I may as well not do it. Because what you decide to do is innate in who you are and your DNA and the way you view the world and the way you were raised. When people make me mad, I prove something to them. Now, I will say this. He gave 2 A's. One was mine. Because he made me mad. And for the first time in my life, I got a migraine headache. I was in California. My mother was out here in where was Mom at that time? Maryland. Mom was in Maryland. I had a migraine because I was memorizing genetic phylum. I was memorizing tables. I was memorizing everything under the sun until I could see a tunnel. It's like, oh, I have a migraine. And I couldn't remember if it was hot fomentation or cold fomentation. And I had to call my mommy. What do I put on my forehead? Hot or cold? But I got an A because that's how I am wired. When someone tells me I can't do it, I'm going to prove to you that I can. Everyone isn't wired that way. They're just not. So when you're trying to make a lifestyle change, and I'm saying this to you, that change is difficult if you don't approach it the right way, because if change were not difficult, Prince would be alive. I'm just going to say it straight up. And this is where you have to understand how difficult it is to change, that a man as brilliant as Prince would allow himself to overdose on a fentanyl patch, which is used for pain management. Someone as talented as Shaka Khan just had to go back into rehab yesterday for the same thing. Because this is where you see, this is an equal field change. So we're here to talk about lifestyle change, and some of you, the question is, what do you do so that the next year you come, you can say to Leah, I lost 15 pounds from last summer to this summer. So the question is, when you come to Fit for You camp, do you set a goal, if you plan to come next year, of what you want to achieve, and do you achieve it? That's the question. And I'm wondering if any brave soul could answer that.
I set a goal at Fit for You camp last year, and I did not reach it. So the answer for me is no.
All right. Honesty here. Did anybody else set a goal? That's okay. I love walking around. It's all good.
Yes, I set a goal, and I did lose 22 pounds. I was 182 last year, and I'm now 160.
And how did you do it?
I tried to, I changed my diet. I've been eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. I tried the vegan, but I couldn't stay there that long. I became, I guess, pescatarian, where I eat fish
It's
and
all right, sweetheart. I
vegetables.
went to Barbados, and after not eating fish for 10 years, I tasted the flying fish. Okay.
So-
It is what
So it is about change.
it is about change. And the whole point that we're going to try to talk about is what motivates you to change, what stops you from changing. So when, before I went into doing what I'm doing now, which is outpatient work, mostly with kids and adolescents, some adults, and I'm going to be honest with you and tell you why I work mostly with children and adolescents. Because when it comes to adults, most adults don't really want to change. They are comfortable where they are. So even though you're here to get that tune up at Fit for You, you go home and you don't have Miss Leah cracking that whip. You don't have chefs in the kitchen cooking you the vegan meals. And you may not have someone in your home supporting you, which is why sometimes it's hard to make a change. With a child, they're open pretty much to anything, and they're very resilient, and they're going to listen to you, and if you're the right role model, they will do something. But adults are comfortable, and a lot of times the reason why they come in is that they want to be there. It could be someone says you have to change. And if someone tells you you have to change, do you change or you dig in? Be honest. You dig in. If someone tells me I have to do something, I become very oppositional. That is the truth. I mean, I'm just that way, except maybe my husband. I try to do what he tells me to do. I say try. But if someone comes to me and says, you have to do something, and it's not something I really want to do, I'm not going to do it. So the essence of change is an internal motivation. So when you look at substance abuse treatment, which I did for about 7 years, there is something we call the steps to change. And in substance abuse lingo, which can work for healthy lifestyle, it is the same road that you have to travel. Pre-contemplation, contemplation, determination, action, maintenance, and relapse. Those are the stages. And if you think that that is easy, it is not. I was telling Ged, my husband drove me down, so I chat with him on the way. When I had heard about Shaka Khan, and I read the article, I looked up somebody else who had been a friend of hers by the name of Etta James. Some of you who know who Etta James is. And she struggled with heroin addiction most all of her life. And Shaka Khan, she said to her, if you want to make it in this business, she told Shaka, you don't want to do what I did, and showed her all the track marks on her arms. And so Shaka said, you're right, I never IV'd, I just snorted the heroin and cocaine. And she was very open about it. But then I went and Googled Etta James to find out about her life. And at one point, she had been in rehab 17 months and came out and used. That is the power of what the brain does or does not do and the rewiring of your brain. Because what we do, it's like when it rains and the water goes down a certain track, it goes down that track. And to get it to reroute that track, you have to build something, am I right? So when you work in substance abuse lingo, it is the same thing as in lifestyle change. Why are you here, and what do you want to take away from 2 weeks of eating good food, is the question. What is your motivation? My motivation, and I told this a few years ago when I was here, I was a skinny mini when I grew up, thankfully. But I was bullied as well because I was too skinny. I was called olive oil. I was called string bean. I was called daddy long legs. Here's my favorite. Turn Jude sideways, stick out her tongue, she could be a zipper. So I just need you all to know that these kids today think that nobody else has been bullied. The only difference today is that they have social media and more people know about the bullying, but bullying has always been there. So I took that for granted. But then as we get older, what happens? What slows down? Metabolism slows down. So you could eat the exact same way and you're still gonna do what? Gain weight. And the only way that's gonna change is if you make a change. In other words, you have to expend more what? Energy. And that's where the problem comes in. You go to work all day. You're tired. You don't want to expend any energy. But then my 40th high school reunion came and I wanted to look good. That's the truth. And so 6 years ago, I decided I had to do something because I was gaining. A psychiatrist's job is what? Sitting in a chair listening to people's problems all day. It's not like running around and doing all this stuff. I'm sitting in my office listening to people all day. I had to make a decision, so I got a personal trainer. Did I look good at my 40th? Was it my 40th or 45th? I'm trying to, 40th. Okay, 40th. Of course I looked good because I was determined to look good. Not only that, I went to a Seventh-day Adventist school back in California, 75 people in the class. I was the only black girl. You know I was going to look good because they all knew who I was. That was my motivation and drive to get started. Did I keep it up? No. No. And then I had to take a look at myself. And so I need you all to understand I may look okay now, but there was a time I was someplace I didn't want to be. And if I say I was a size 12, or some of you say, well, I wish I were, well, okay, it's all relative. When you're 6'8", 12 is big. Understandable, my best friend was a 00, and for her 4 was big. And I want to say, don't let me slap you, I'd love to be a 4. But it's all relative, am I right? It's all relative. And so I decided for me, and this is where it clicked for me, and it has to click for you internally or it's not going to work. I started losing friends. I started losing friends in their 50s from cancer. My best friend died last fall. I'm not over it yet. Cancer, 53. Her brother died 3 months before. Colon cancer, 55. I have lost over 8 to 10 friends from cancer. And I said, I'm not feeling this. And so I had to make a decision by looking at my lifestyle, looking at what I ate, looking at the causes of cancer. So again, this is not anyone beating me over the head. This is me watching my friends die. And I wanted to live. And that was my motivation. And so in 2014, I joined a boot camp. I joined a boot camp because I recognized that I don't have it in me to make myself motivate myself. And change is all about motivation. What is going to make you tick? Now, you come to my house, you will see that I have a treadmill. I have weights that start at 3 pounds and goes up to what, baby? 40? I don't know, 50? Somewhere in there. The whole gamut of the free weights. Everything at home. I have machines. I have everything. They were collecting dust. Pre-contemplation, when you're talking about motivation, is you go into someone and you're like getting to know that person because you're on the verge of, I got to do something. And you have to trust the person that you want to do that thing with. Then the next step is contemplation. Remember, this is geared to substance abuse, but it has been used for people who are anorexic as well as people who are obese. It is all about change. Then you go into contemplation where you acknowledge, I have a problem and I got to fix it. That therapist who is working with you has to get you there, because if you can't get to where you acknowledge that you have a problem and you need to fix it, and they tip the balance to say, what do I have to do to get you to move, nothing's going to happen. The third step is called determination. Okay, I figured out I have a problem, and I need to fix it, and I'm determined to fix it. The next step is called action. That is where everybody in here is right now. If you weren't in the action phase, you would not come to Fit for You. You have decided, I'm going to do something. So you're here. The tricky part comes with when you go home. Am I right? That's where it's maintenance and relapse. What do I do to keep what I learned at Fit for You going? And you have to look at yourself and say, what is it going to take? I know you make a goal. Now, I'm going to tell you what my boot camp coach does, and she's very successful at it. She is very successful. She is annoyingly successful at it. She gets on my last nerve, but she's successful at it. When I decided I was going to join the boot camp, I came in, I had to be weighed. I do not like to be weighed, ever. I had to have measurements, fat thingies, so that I could see where I had to go. I set a goal of 20 pounds. That was my goal. When I go to boot camp, every single day, at the end of the session, and we do what we call high intensity, because, I don't have time to be there for an hour. So they do who knows what that is? High intensity sessions, where it's a half an hour. You go in, you warm up for 5 minutes, you work yourself to death for 20, and then you cool down for 5. That's a high intensity, it's called HIIT, high intensity interval training. So I get up, my alarm goes off at 5:15. I lie in bed and think about it for about 10 minutes. Then I get up, change my clothes, and class starts at 6 o'clock, and I work out from 6 to 6:30. I need you to understand something. If you are not internally driven to do something, you will get in your car and see the temperature at -6 and say, what the heck am I doing? I'd rather be in bed. And that is where your own internal motivation has to kick in. And you say, I'm going to do this anyway, because I need you to understand something. And I will not lie to you. I do not like to exercise at all. I really don't. But I want to live. So you have to decide what's going to outweigh what. I need my heart pumping. I need to do everything I can do with my lifestyle, because there are too many things out there that I don't have any control over. I don't have any control over my DNA. I know some people who got married, and because of their mother's and father's DNA, I met a couple who were getting married when I was in medical school. They decided to have no children because of heart attacks, cardiovascular disease, and whatnot that came down the pike in their DNA. They're like, we're not going there. You have no say in your DNA. So what you have to do when you make a decision to change is that you have to find your own internal motivators to say, what is in this for me? And what is in this for me is that I want to change my lifestyle so that I can live longer. The weight loss is a side benefit. You can't go into this saying, I want to lose weight. Because the weight's going to come and the weight's going to go. Now, how many people, be honest, you don't have to tell me how much, have successfully lost the weight you want to lose just by coming to Fit for You camp? I know 1, 2. Do you set a goal? When I started boot camp, I had to set a goal. I had to weigh in. And if I was not reaching my goal, my coach called me in. What is the problem? What are you eating? So then I had to start a what? Food chart. How many people in here have done a food chart? Because when you write down what you eat, you can see what it is you eat. And when I was stuck at 17 pounds down, I was stuck. Couldn't seem to move the scale. And what did it for me? When I first got on the scale after working out for a while and I saw that number go down, I was like, oh yeah, we're going to keep coming. Because that's just me. I'm vain. What can I tell you? I wanted to see the numbers go down. At that point, the health benefit was a side effect. Now health is number one. The weight loss is a side effect. I am in the maintenance phase. I reached my goal when my coach sat me down and said, you have to change more. She is an advocate of, you ready for this? No sugar, no salt, no oil in your food. No sugar, no SOS, no sugar, oil, or salt. I did try it. I lost 5 more pounds, so my whole total weight loss was 22 pounds. Did I stick with SOS? That's a toughie. It was one thing for me to go from vegetarian to vegan, but SOS is not easy. But I recognized that when I made that change, I saw results. And that's where we have to be. So what we're going to talk about for a little bit, oh, we're doing good, is why can't I stick to it? And what can I do to stick to it? So there's 4 easy steps. Oh, they're passing out. Oh, here's a few more you can pass out. It's more than enough. That's just the end, but we're at the beginning. 4 steps. How do I stick to it and make a change when I leave Fit for You camp? The first thing is you have to get a mentor. And what I was sharing with you is that when we're cooling down every morning after I work out five days a week, 5 days a week, Sunday through Thursday. At the end, when we're cooling down, they make you in front of the whole class say what your goal is and what you're working on that month. You have to have someone who makes you accountable. What is your goal? 1 by 1 by 1. I'm working on a mile. I'm working on 30 push-ups in a minute. You know, for me, I'm working on a 3-minute plank. Anyone know what a plank is? Everybody knows what a plank is? I'm working on a 3-minute plank. That may sound like a lot. It's really not. You should see Tammy. Tammy does a 21-minute plank. When I first started out, I could maybe do a 15-second plank. So it's a process. So my goals this month are 3 dive bomber push-ups, a 3-minute plank, and running a mile. And you have to say that each and every day to everyone. And at the end of the month, they hold you accountable. What did you achieve? Some people achieved, some people didn't achieve. You need a mentor that will make you check in. You have a goal you're trying to reach. You need to write it down, and you need someone to hold you accountable. Or whatever you learn here for Fit for You is going to go right down the tubes. Number 2, the problem with a lot of us is that once we start, it's difficult to see that there is any improvement. And so if you don't see improvement right away, the tendency is to do what? Give up and stop. You didn't get where you are in 2 months. You got here over the course of what? How many years? 30 years. You're not going to get to where you want to be in 2 weeks. You're just not. And just recognizing that this is just what we call planting the seed. And we're trying to figure out how to help you make it sprout and grow while you're not at Fit for You. So you can't get discouraged if it is not, you're not where you want to be. And I'm sort of saying this in a lifestyle because I think we, especially as women, tend to be very hard on ourselves. We will forgive most anything in someone else, but we tend to be very hard on ourselves. And the reality of it is the way God made us makes it harder for us to be where we need to be simply because God gave us more fat. We're the baby carriers, correct? Men have more what? Muscle. So I'm going to tell you, when I went on the SOS, and I have to tell you, the cook in my house is my hubby, and he's a very good cook. He doesn't like me to say that, but he's a very good cook. I said to him, okay, my coach told me to lose the oil, because if you don't lose the oil has 4,000 calories per pound. Any oil has 4,000 calories per pound. Okay, that's a lot. So they recommend that you switch and you start sauteing your onions and your garlic and whatever in no sodium vegetable broth. And believe you me, it sautés just as well. What you have to do is learn how to use herbs and spices. I'm not really great at that, which is why we tend to do what? The salt and pepper or the lemon pepper and all of that. But if you learn to use the herbs and spices, you do pretty good. He lost 9 pounds doing the cooking with the vegetable broth. Me, maybe 2, 3. He would say, Jude, I'm losing weight. I'm like, cry me a river. It's like, really? Like, I can't feel your pain. Because I wasn't losing it. And I wasn't working. I'm the one working out. He's not getting up at 5:15. I am. But God built us differently, right? So he has permission to eat more stuff than I could ever eat. That's it. We were on the boardwalk at, where were we, baby? We were at Rehoboth Beach. So Saturday night, we go on the boardwalk. He wants rum raisin ice cream. Did Jude have rum raisin ice cream? No. Because the penalty for that rum raisin ice cream was more than I was willing to pay. Now, he did give me a taste on a little spoon. But the bottom line is, I have to be accountable to someone. And I put myself in that situation because that is what I need to change. What I needed to change may not be what you need to change. The third reason why it's so difficult to maintain a change is a lack of social supports. Who's cheering you on? When you're at home and you're trying to cook different and eat different, is there someone supporting you? Or is somebody calling you cray-cray? Because you want to be vegan. First of all, let me just say this. I don't tell people I'm vegan, and there is a reason for that. Vegan has a very negative connotation. It does. That's why you hear people say, I have a plant-based diet. Do you understand? There's a difference. Do you know the difference between veganism and a plant-based diet? It's just an aside question. Do you know the difference? Does anyone know the difference? What is the difference between being a vegan and a plant-based diet?
A person who says they're vegan, they have certain passions for animals and what they believe that animals have a soul like people, and they don't eat them for that reason. It also means that you don't ingest any honey. You don't utilize any articles of clothing that have been made from animals.
Exactly,
also.
Exactly. They love the animals. So you see a lot of the celebrities who are vegan, they won't even wear like certain wools or cottons or alligator shoes or anything that has a cowhide in it or anything like that. That's a vegan, and so it has a very negative connotation. Okay? Plant-based is altogether different. Plant-based is for a healthier lifestyle. I have opted not to eat anything that breathes or has a mother. You with me? Anything that breathes or has a mother is a lifestyle change, and which we will get into when we talk about stress and whatnot, because that is also one of the barriers. And the last thing is, slips are going to happen. And you got to learn to forgive yourself. I allow myself to slip one day a week. Do you know what day that might be? Just guess. Sabbath. Why do I allow myself to slip on Sabbath? Because Sabbath I go to church, yes, and what else? You visit other people, and what do most churches have after? Yeah, macaroni and cheese, green beans with butter. I mean, everything that is unhealthy under the sun you can find at a church potluck. Okay? So, I decide if I'm going to give, no, okay, so I'm not going to say I take a break all Sabbath. I take a break for the Sabbath meal if I'm eating at church. I decided I'm just going to allow myself to do that. Now, I'm going to tell you straight up, my coach, absolutely, positively not. She says, I go to my relative's home and I just look at that food and say, I'm not putting that stuff in my body. Stephanie looks like I don't even know what. She is so tiny. She is so tiny. She is very rigid and very disciplined. Very rigid and very disciplined. I'm not. I may be 80% disciplined, except when it comes to, I am not going to not come to your house and eat what you prepare. So the question is, when you fall off the wagon, can you get back on? No, some of you can't get back on. Be honest here. Do you get back on the wagon? Do you get off the wagon?
No, that's what happened. Last year after that Fit for You camp, I stayed on the wagon for 3 months. Just one day, someone offered me something I hadn't been eating. It tasted so good, I wanted more and more, and I never got back on.
Should I even ask what it was?
M&M's with peanuts.
Oh, that's great. You know what my bugaboo is? Chocolate. And I tell myself it's all right because they say for a healthy lifestyle, you can eat that 80% chocolate. It works for me. So I find that 80%. Vegan, dark chocolate. Says it right there. Organic, vegan, dark chocolate. I don't care if it has 16 grams of fat per square. Everybody has their bugaboo. But I will stop. That's just me. That's how I'm built. And you are who you are. And you have to find that internal mechanism. Now, because I'm built that way, last year I went for my 45th high school. Still look good, too. We might be. And I intend to look good at 50th if I'm still alive. That's my goal. That's my goal. But again, that's a side benefit. What is my primary thing? Health. Because if you do not have your health, you have nothing, and all the money in the world won't fix it. Okay? So, in the last little bit of time we have left, those are the 4 reasons why it's difficult to stick to it. I'm going to talk about the last, most important. Kenny, who was handing out those handouts? I think they took mine. Does anyone have the stress one? The number 1 reason why it's difficult for people to maintain any kind of lifestyle change is stress. That one. Thank you. Stress. Now, I want you to pick this up. Everybody have one? 60 to 80% of primary care doctor visits are related to stress, yet only 3% of patients receive stress management help. So I want you to look at 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th line down. What does it say stress contributes to? I didn't make this up. Weight gain and obesity. So we're going to talk about how that all comes about, and then we'll talk about how you can fix it. Our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made. God did not leave anything to chance. And when we're talking about stress, One of the public enemies, or the public enemy number one when it comes to stress, is a little hormone called cortisol. Other than the good doctor, who I know knows this, where does cortisol come from? And who's heard of cortisol? Well, yeah, it comes in your body. Where does it come from? How does it get to where it is? Well, stress causes it to be released. It comes from the adrenal glands. This is very true. So then the next question is, where are the adrenal glands? We're like, okay. On top of the kidneys. How big are the kidneys? Well, they're bean-shaped, but how big are they? The size of what? A fist. So you have these things back here, size of a fist, with a little pointy cap. A little triangular cap, kind of like that, sitting on top. And those are your adrenal glands. So we had guests over a couple of Sundays ago, and somebody was walking in the lawn behind my house, and there was a black snake in the grass. That is my bugaboo. I don't do snakes. Just put it out there. Now, it was just a Maryland snake. It was not poisonous. My brother took a picture of it. It was huge. So my nephew had it up on a stick. Aunt Jude, look at what I found. And I had to stay calm, even though at this point, something deep in my brain called the hypothalamus was kicking in fight or flight. The hypothalamus is kicking in, and it's releasing a hormone called what? Corticosteroid. And that hormone goes zipping down to the pituitary, and in the front of the pituitary, it kicks out another hormone called the adrenal corticosteroid, because we are going to where? The adrenal gland. God is so good. The adrenal corticosteroids, and that thing zip down there, and what goes up? Your blood pressure. And then you decide to fight or flee. I don't fight with snakes. So I told my nephew, please walk it down to the back of the property and throw it in the bushes. That is what happens when stress comes. And the problem is, if stress stays, you're going to have a problem. So you may have all the best intentions to change and to motivate yourself to change. But in order to have a lifestyle change, you're going to have to look at what contributes to why you're here. And stress is the number one. There was a famous doctor by the name of Dr. Hans Selye that did research on stress, and he has 3 stages of stress. He calls it the alarm stage, the resistance stage, and the exhaustion stage. And essentially, the alarm stage is when you're faced with something stressful, and for black men, it may just be police lights behind them. Now, what I find interesting, and I told my husband this, as a black woman, I don't like it, and I've been pulled over, and they've been very nasty to me, but I am not as fearful of them as I would want him to be, because I want him to come home alive. That's really bad to say that in these United States in this day and time, but that's the truth. Whatever it is. And so your body is going to kick in, and all of these hormones are going to surge down to give you that fight or flight. But when the stress is over, your body is supposed to shift back into what we call homeostasis or balance. But if the stress does not go away, you're going to keep pumping and pumping and pumping until your body comes into something called exhaustion. We call it burnout, overload. And unfortunately, if this is not controlled, it not only leads to somatic health problems, it leads to psychiatric problems, depression, anxiety, particularly in adolescence. The stress that you're experiencing is what balances out your blood sugars, and that seems to be a problem in the African American culture, is what? Hypertension and sugar, diabetes. So maybe if we look at why so many African Americans have it, it could be your DNA, it could be how you came out, it also could be the stress that you're constantly living on, which increases the cortisol, which makes the blood sugars be out of whack. Stress also has to do with what? Your inflammation. Most of the diseases we have are due to inflammation. That is what your dentist will tell you. That is why he wants you to do what? Floss. Floss. Because your gums become inflamed with disease if you don't floss. And that gum disease can take people out, because if they have inflamed gum and you have a bad heart and you get an infection, it will go to your heart and take you out. I don't know if you knew that. Newsweek had an article a number of years ago, which I have saved. It's called How to Live to 100. Number 1 is never retire. Number 2, floss your teeth every day. I didn't make up this list. Number 8, eat like a Seventh-day Adventist. This is a Newsweek article on how to live to enough. You can Google it. You know, that's God bless Google. I mean, that man deserves every penny he makes, and he makes a lot of it. So it causes inflammation, it causes your problems with learning and memory, and it causes blood pressure and heart disease problems. So, you want to lose weight? You have to look at your stress. You have to look at how you deal with your stress. I just gave you this handout so you can look at what parts of the body stress affects. Everything. And for the kids, I look at them. Look at headache, irritability, anger, anxiety, panic, and whatnot. A lot of the teenagers I have a lot of the kids that I treat have attention deficit disorder, and a lot of the adolescents that I treat deal with a lot of depression and anxiety, because going to school in these United States is like going into a war zone for many of the kids in the inner city. It's very, very difficult. So they come in very stressed, and their issue is irritability, their issue is anger, their issue is depression, they're being bullied, so they go into school refusal. I'm not going to do it. This sheet that I gave you here are just some tips to help you with stress. Now, and then we're almost done, and we can eat that good food and call it a day. I don't think I need to go through all of them, but I'm going to go through some of them. I had to give we had an interim pastor, and God bless Dr. Warden. He decided that health should not just be in the month of March on one day. So he asked me to give a little health talk, Leah, for 3 minutes, 3 whole minutes. I got up in the pulpit and I said, gee, you give me 5 minutes for children's story, 3 minutes for health. Okay. I'm going to talk about stress. Now, I had this in my hand, and I had it like this. You know, this was in the front, this was in the back. I attend Capitol Hill Seventh-day Adventist Church, and on a good day when the church is full, we may have, 500-600 people, okay? And so I said, I brought this for when I'm finished, you can have a handout. I'm going to leave it in the lobby. I only made 50 copies because I understand that everybody here is good. You don't have any problems with stress. Before I finished my 3-minute speech, someone was texting the head elder's wife, can you grab one for me? Because she was seeing the program online. Can you grab one for me? I went down to eat the potluck. They were all gone. And people are asking for more because it affects everybody. So these are the top 3 things that I shared, and I'm going to share with you, and you can read the rest at your leisure. Number 6, set boundaries and detach. I have another way of saying this. Get rid of toxic people in your life, including relatives. Get rid, and I'm going to add this, without guilt. I know someone who did that. He defriended them all. His brother-in-laws, sister-in-laws, defriended his wife's entire family. He refuses to go to any family get-together whatsoever. She goes alone. He will not go. His blood pressure came down because he said, I value my life and my health more than I value going around people who want me to behave and live their way. Now, I want to know if there's anyone in here who can tell me that there isn't someone in their family that doesn't get on their first, second, third, and last nerve. Now, I want you to just be, you don't have to tell me. It could be your child. You have got to get rid of, I call it respectfully putting people in the balcony or the basement of my house. I don't have to be mean to someone to detach from that person. I call it self-preservation. You have to get to the place where you can admit that you are not going to be liked by everybody. And you are not going to like everybody. You're just not. For those of you who have children, it must be nice to have your parents say, I loved you all the same. You know that's a lie. You can't love your kids all the same because some of your children's personalities just grate on you, especially if you have a child that's just like you. I'm just trying to be honest here. I have a millennial. I'd like to wring her neck. Love her though, but she don't live in my house. Why? It's called self-care. She's working, she has her money. Her father and I love her, and if anything happens, we will support her. But we're about self-preservation. And a millennial will drive you cray-cray. I'm being very honest here. People look at me like, can you believe that? I mean, you know, when they interviewed D.L. Hughley the other day after, Mr. Castile was murdered in Louisiana, and he even said that I have 2 millennials. They're living in my house because, they don't have jobs. That's millennials. They do things differently. Their lifestyles are different. And so I have to make sure that I don't have stress in my house, coming in at 2 and 3 in the morning and cutting it for me. So you have to decide what you need to do in your life to reduce your stress. So when I say detach from or get rid of toxic people, if it involves you may have to change your job, you have to think of it this way. I need to live, and if I stay here, I will die, because I am here to tell you stress will bring disease, because it lowers your immune system and you will get sick. I don't care how many twigs and branches you eat. Number 2, turn off the news. I believe that's number 9. I believe that's number 9. Okay. Trump, Hillary. Hillary, Trump. Fox, MSN. MSNBC, Fox. If you're liberal leaning, you're looking at MSNBC. If you're right leaning, you're looking at Fox. And that will never change. You couldn't pay me to look at Fox. Ever. I find them very disrespectful to my president. And I didn't like that they called Michelle baby mama. So I made a decision a long time before I turned off the TV that I wasn't going to look at Fox. Now, I don't look at anything. I had to wean myself off. I had to cut out scandal. I did. No, I'll be honest with you. I had to cut it out. Because it's just, no, I had to let it go. Yeah, they changed it into, Fitz, Jake, Fitz. Oh, no, I had to let it go. And so I had 2 or 3 shows I was looking at, and as my shows ended, I didn't pick up anything else. I listened to my books on tape, which I love. Calms me down. Close my eyes and do that. Because TV and the news will, and see, this is the problem. You get all bent out of shape over stuff you have no control over. None. Who's going to win is who is fixed to win. And I don't care what anybody says. It has already been determined who's going to win. However, I vote because people died to give me that privilege. Not only as a woman, but as an African American. So I vote. You understand what I'm saying? God's got it. God's got it. My father was a missionary, and we lived in Guyana in South America at the time. Between 1962 to 1966, J.F. Kennedy was killed November 22, 1963. I remember, even though I was living in Guyana, how everybody went crazy when he was running. Why? Because he was a what? Catholic. And people were certain that if he won, and I remember this, I was just, 5, 6, somewhere in there. But I remember these conversations that people were panicked that if JFK won, he would bring the Pope over, everybody would be Catholic, and that would be the end of the world, and Jesus would come, and nobody was ready for that. So they were getting in the pulpit preaching, don't vote for JFK. No, this is the truth. Maybe some of you weren't around at the time. I know some of you were. You're kind of looking at me like, I don't know, how old is she? I was a toddler, but I remember. Just like I remember when he died. And the newspapers all the way in Guyana had it on front page. The point is, Ellen G. White says, does anyone know who that is or not know? Some of you who don't know who Ellen G. White is a prophetess that foretold things in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, one of our founders. And she had a statement that said, if you could see the end from the beginning, you would not go any other way other than the way God has you go. So you don't know what's coming. God knows what's coming. And I always said God put Bush 2 in to prepare the way for Obama. I've always said that. Because if people weren't so turned off by what he did, you wouldn't have been voting for Obama. But that's kind of my thought process. That's just me. So if the television is making you yell, and I sometimes have to tell my husband, I don't want to see another police beating, not another one, because it's all over Facebook. We live and die by Facebook. Literally, it's all over. And if you keep looking at that, it is going to affect you. And you really can't change it. It's endemic in the police, who I believe came from the slave masters, but that's another whole thing. No, but it's the truth, There's a lot of truth to that. So my point is, you stress over stuff that you have no control over, and that causes changes in your body. But I'm speaking the truth. You may laugh. So what I do is I try to look at things that will make me happy. I only look at polls that show Hillary ahead. That's it. If I see a poll that has her even or below, I don't read the article. Literally. I said, let me look at something that will bring me some joy. And people say, I don't understand why you can look at crooked here. I was telling my husband this morning that you need to understand something. I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote for someone intelligent. That's all I'm voting for, is someone intelligent. It has nothing to do with anything other than she's intelligent. And sometimes when you want a president, you want someone who can play in the sandbox with everybody else and not build walls. You want someone who can be nice to other people and other countries. So I want someone intelligent. If Trump were intelligent, it would be a toss-up. Okay. I said I wasn't going to go political. And last but not least, in the end, when it comes to stress, you have got to understand that there is a reason that everything happens in this world, and there is someone in charge, and it is not me. The wonderful thing about being a Christian throughout all of this is that you can fall on your knees when something happens that is so overwhelming. You know, my husband and I just returned. We were in Barbados in June. We went to spread Rosie's ashes. And Rosie and her, and I'm just talking about DNA here and talking about how things change. Rosie fought breast cancer for 4.5 years. Her brother fought colon cancer for 2 years and died within 3 months of each other. Her mother is 94. So I need you to understand how things have changed with, and I'm sure you have other speakers who are going to talk about nutrition and changes and GMOs and all that kind of stuff. That this mother would lose 2 children to cancer when she is 94 and her husband died at 95. Okay? The point is, when we were on the boat and sun was setting that Friday and we were going out to, let the ashes go, and they asked us to all speak. This is what she said, that 94-year-old woman: "The Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." That is all she said as she put 2 children in the water. We come home after that draining experience, and 2 days later, a tornado hits our neighborhood. Howard County, tornado ripped through. My husband sent me pictures of trees down, branches down, this down, that down. And I'm at work. I mean, it's pouring rain in Baltimore, but the tornado looked like it went up our street in Ellicott City. I sent him a text. I said, "Did we have a tornado?" At the point, I did not know it was a tornado. And he said, "No, it looked more like a hurricane," because he was at home at the time, and the wind, and he was praying, "Lord, do not let any tree hit our house." Because 5 miles up the road, a tree did come down and divide somebody else's house, okay? But it still cost us a lot of money to fix up and cut down and branches and everything after we had just come back from an overseas trip. So these are the kind of things that if you did not have your connection to a higher power, could sink you. And I think this is where there's a difference when you come here versus going someplace else. There isn't anything Miss Leah can tell you, honestly, about a lifestyle change and stress and the whole bit if you do not have a mechanism that you can take whatever problem or stress you have and give it to somebody else. Now, I started off by talking about motivations and stages of change. In substance abuse, they call it what? The higher power. 12 steps. You need to turn it over to the care of someone greater than you. And for some people, that may be a doorknob, because there are some people who do not have a higher power. I don't know personally how anyone makes it in this world without a higher power. Because if you get to that point that you can turn it over and then just let it go, here's the problem. Adults don't know how to let it go. They hold on to anger, hold on to anxieties. You see someone in church, and boy, oh boy, that Holy Spirit goes right out the window. I don't care if you go to Sabbath church or Sunday church. And you have got to get to the place where this has to be about you and your self-preservation. Lifestyle is more than just changing what you eat. Lifestyle is changing your whole view to what you want yourself to be and the life you want to live in a world that has gone out of control. I don't really honestly worry too much about who's in the White House, because there's this thing called checks and balances. Really. There's checks and balances. The president may want to do all this grand agenda, but if he doesn't get the Congress to cooperate, it ain't going to happen. So, I mean, if Trump gets in, which I highly doubt, but anyway, if he does, there is such a thing called checks and balances. And at the most, he'll be in for 4 years and we can go on. You think about how many presidents you've lived under, and you're still here. I don't even know who the governor is in my state. Never seen a picture of him. Do I care? Not really. Doesn't affect me, my bills, my mortgage, nothing. So I stay out of politics. That's the choice I make. I get up, I thank the Lord for waking me up in my right mind. That I'm breathing, I keep it simple. I have a home, I have food on the table, I have someone who loves me. Keep me safe today as I go to my office, which is my ministry, trying to put some hope into people who live in abject poverty, to give them some peace of mind that a pill isn't going to fix. And that was one of my other lectures. Well, pill won't fix this. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if I did not have that attitude, I need you to understand that one of the highest number of physicians who commit suicide are psychiatrists. That is not going to be me. I want to live until my millennial gets herself together. Yeah, I'm going to live forever. I see glimpses. I see changes. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know, I had to send her a text yesterday because, you know, her bank statements and stuff come to the house. Should I open them? No, but I do. And so there was one that had her name on it, and I opened it, and I saw all these overdrafts. I sent her a text. I said, you might think about checking your balance before you spend, because you are being hit with a lot of $35 overdraft fees, and so unless you have a whole lot of money, it's a waste. That's what I said. Because although she's 23, she still needs guidance. Don't tell me 30. I don't want to hear it. Oh, yeah. Oh, that makes me want to weep. I keep thinking the light will go on. Yeah, but we're making progress. So the point is, you have to decide how you want to spend the rest of your life. Whether you're going to worry about this, worry about that, try to fix this, try to fix that, or be about you and the best you that God can give you. And if you can do that, your stress level will go down, and all of these wonderful foods and tips and tools that you are learning here, you can put into practice, keep that cortisol from increasing, and be the person that you want to be. You've been a great audience. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.